Hi everyone, Lady Botcher, Angela here with the final Gelfling in my Gelfling series, and I hope you stick around because there's a lot to cover. So here we go. So these are my supplies, and yes, I already made wings and I do have 2 videos on them, so you can go check those out on my channel. And yes, they're just very DIY. But they turned out very nice. So yeah. I made a little bag. There is a little potion of herbs and stuff inside. I also made a little book for her, as she is an herbalist, and these are some of her herbs, and for like a crossbody strap. And yes, I will be removing her face. I've already drilled a hole and placed the magnet for the wings in her back. So let's get started. So what I did first was, obviously I took off her head and I put her in some hot water, and I'm removing the plugs, and in the process I ripped her head open. So I just took all of the hair out from that hole that happened to come about. So excuse me. So what I'm doing here now is just removing all the little plugs, and yes, they're burnt for Cave Club, so they're not like glued in, so which is great. But I'm using 100% acetone to remove her face and her hair paint. The blue is going to be gone. So I also am going to stitch up. Oh yes, this is the part where I found that she had some scratches on her face on one side, so I decided to switch my concept and put her bad side on the left side instead of the right. So it actually worked out. So that's great. I did sew up her hole in the back of her head, and then I painted her scalp the color of her hair. I tried rerouting, and yes, it did not go well, but here I am. I'm putting some polymorph in some hot water, and I am going to be making her ears. And I wanted her ears not to be like the other 3 that I had already made. I wanted her ears to be very droopy, and obviously she is a Grottan, so she lives underground and she needs big ears, like a bat almost, to hear things in the caves. So I tried to make her ears a bit bigger than the others, a bit droopy, just because that's kind of what I wanted her character to be. So I didn't want them sticking out or anything like that, like straight out. So I tried very hard to get the polymorph to work quickly, and again, the seam lines weren't great. I didn't sand them either after they were dry. And I don't know. I just don't care to do that with their ears. But just because they're just so small. And I mean, if it was a bigger project, probably I would. But for me, it's not that big of a deal. I cover it with hair anyway, the seam lines. So, yeah. I actually liked how they turned out. I gave them little holes for earrings as well. So here I did try to reroute. It didn't go well. I collapsed her hairline in the front, so I made wefts instead. So I'm just going to glue them on. Yeah, that's where I have the hole. So I made some wefts, and I'm going to glue them on with E6000. No, it's not great, but it works, and the way I styled it, you can't really see. It's very white and bright, so you can't really tell anyway. So this is my second time for the face up. I'm not going to show you the first because it's just not worth it. So here I am just working on the outlines, and I was going to do a tan color or a terracotta color for the outline, and I was like, no. I was watching some Jackie O and on YouTube, and she does it with a red pencil, and I'm like, well, why can't I do that? So I did, and I think it turned out pretty good. I like the undertone of the red that it gives to the face, and I don't have to use pink for the water ducks or anything like that because the red's already taken care of that. So that's what I did. I just outlined everything that I wanted to, because since this is the second time, I think it was just the eyes were just not coming out the way I wanted them to. They just, with the eye mold, is the eye mold part of the face of a cave club is so big that it looked almost ghoulish, I guess, for her character. So I only cut them down just a tiny bit, just a fraction of the size of the mold, and it looked a lot better. Even though her eyes are still bigger than all the rest of my Gelflings that I have, it's because her character is that way. So she has to have big eyes and big ears because she lives, subterraneously in the dark. So most of the time. So the caves and stuff of Grot are, lit up by the special moss and stuff that's down there. So they need eyesight and their ears all the time. So that's why these Gelfling have basically adapted to their environment. So that's what I was trying to portray here. And yes, I am giving her purple and green eyes. So she does have heterochromia, and it is for a reason. Obviously, for the beginning of the story, I couldn't make two dolls that were the same, with one with green eyes and one with, purple, obviously. So she gets both. So, and I really actually liked how these turned out. I like the fact that, her scratches on her face lent to the idea of these scratches on her and these purple veins. Yes, it is because she has touched, the darkening, so it's infected her basically. And here I am actually not giving her eyebrows. This is supposed to give the illusion that she has, protruding brow, because the girl cave clubs don't have this more molded brow line that the boys do. So we have to fake it. So I just gave her a little bit of shading underneath. I didn't give her any hair at all. I didn't go in with strokes or anything like that. And I think it turned out pretty good. Excuse me. I did the same effect with Duna, but it was due to the fact that I gave her makeup, and that makeup actually defined the line of her so-called brow. So Smidge here, she doesn't have that, so that's why I had to give her a little bit more shading to give the illusion of that. So here I am again. I'm just pumping up all of the colors and things like that. I probably did about 4 layers on her face. The first layer was getting the sketch down, and then putting in some shading and different things like that, and getting the base colors down. In these other ones, I start putting in the pupil. I start putting in more details on her face. I give her some mica powder, some blushing. I do her lips and give her some creases in her lips as well. I also make her eyes a little bit more sweet, I guess. So she's got big pupils compared to the other Gelflings that I have that have smaller pupils because they live topside. So yeah, I think the only thing that I really could have done better are, on all of them, to be honest, are their ears. So I think that was just because I had never worked with the polymorph plastics medium before. So yeah, that was a feat. But it was a lot better. Excuse me, oh my goodness. For me, because it didn't take but 5 minutes to harden and be able to take paint and things like that. So I like the fact that it only takes like 5-10 minutes, but you have to want something to be very organic looking, because you're not going to have a lot of sculpt time, which is probably about, I would say, anywhere between 1 minute and 2, possibly. You can reheat it and reshape it, so that's a plus. But yeah, I just didn't want to have the time for that, to be honest. So here I am again. I'm just putting in the lines in her lips, and I think she's looking rather cute. So I put in the lines in her eyes and everything, and I think I'm going to work on her eyelashes, and we're gonna be almost done, to be honest. I thought she looked really cute. I was gonna give her freckles. I really wanted to give her freckles, but I was like, no, not really, because she hasn't seen the sun. She would have looked really cute in them, but I just, looking at her face, I decided not to, even though the freckles were in my sketch and my idea of her. So yeah, that just didn't work out. So I was doing the lashes, and you could see me looking at both of them, and I'm like, I am not liking the first attempt on this side. So yeah, I erased them with some water, because I saved my work prior with MSC, and I use watercolor, so I just wiped it away. And to be honest, this actually didn't take me too long, because you're seeing my whole attempt. This is it. I didn't go back. I didn't edit out, mistakes that I made. Well, there we go. There's another one. But I'm almost finished. So I didn't do any more attempts other than what you've seen here. So I didn't edit out 10 attempts or something. But I'm using acrylic paint just to give her a little eye shine, just like I did the other ones. And yeah, I really liked how she turned out. And this was where I was debating if I wanted to do freckles or not, and I decided no. So it might be a little overkill for her character, which is a bit more simple, a bit more earthy. So I just kind of didn't do that. So yeah, so now we're glossing the lips. I do gloss the eyes, the iris, and the oh gosh, what's that called? The white part. It's serious. I do know it. It's just, it's not coming to me right now. So after this is done, I have glued her hair on already, so that's why it's in a burrito. I have sort of done her accessories, and we'll see here in just a moment. So I have done this one, as we saw in the beginning. This is her herbs and some of her little potions. This is her corset that I made her, and yes, it does have small rivets. And these are her little gauntlets, and yes, this is supposed to be her dress, and yes, I will be working with it because it's going to be sewn onto her body. So yes, that's why it looks like that. Her little notebook, her little bag, and a little holler bat egg. So one eternity later, after I spent tons of time trying to figure out her outfit, this is what we came up with. So here I have her wings, and yes, they won't fit on right now just because she has her potion strapped to her back right now. But yes, I think she turned out very cute. I tried to give her a couple of braids in the front. I did tack them down with a couple of needles for her hair. Yes, her little gauntlets and her shin guards do have some wear and tear because she does work with Nurlocks, and holler bats, and they, she gets kind of scraped up a bit when she works with them. And so stay tuned for her story. Are sensitive to sunlight and have big ears for hearing like a bat. Grottans were most attuned to Thra and the crystal as the crystal veins throughout the caves and underground of Scarith. Grot was actually given to the Gelfling by the Skeksis after running out the Artham. Grottans were known as the best alchemists and healers due to the abundance of fungi and minerals. Grottans were also the keeper of the record of shadow. Grottans used finger talk or Morse code, while in different caves his talking could be distorted by echoes. Going above ground was forbidden without permission from the Maudra. Called daylighting, only a few could go topside to gather supplies not found in the caves. Grottans were also known for their great healing moss, pastes, and explosive powders. They were also great shepherds who took care of the Nurlocks, which were great worm-like creatures. They also harvested guano from the holler bat for flammable everburn, basically to fuel their fire. Thought to be extinct, the Grottans kept to themselves, and only being a clan of a few dozen, it is not hard to believe. Smidgen, or Smidge, is a shy girl who is fairly good at making draughts and skilled in the art of healing. Quite nondescript, she is blonde with drooping ears. Her wings are what set her apart from her clan. They are vibrant green. This is due to her being born under the lunar eclipse. Some say she is cursed and give her a wide berth, but Smidge doesn't mind. She dreams of bigger things. She would like to be a daylighter, but only a few are given permission. One day she is out collecting hollerbat eggs in a small cave when she comes across a crystal vein in the cavern wall. Instead of it glowing clear or white, it had turned a dark glowing purple. As she touched the vein, it pulsed and she froze. Her body felt numb and she could feel fear, sorrow, and hate rush through her. She finally pulled away, but not without the dark crystals darkening from entering. She could feel different as she went home, stopping at an underground lake to freshen up. What she found broke her heart. Her left eye was a glowing purple and her skin had darkened as veins stretched out across her face. Her light blonde hair had streaks of darkness underneath. A single dark tear rolled down her face as she realized she would have to leave her clan, as things with the darkening never returned to normal. Her journey started that night after the sleep bell tolled. She left a note to her family and rose to the surface world, not knowing where she was to go. And that is where her journey began.